Good morning and welcome to the LCM Day Long Conference.
Good morning, delegates. Welcome to the negotiation. Free trade agreements are very useful to the economy. In fact, this free trade agreement could help boost the economy of the European Union by over $100 billion.
Now, there is much contention and much debate over whether GMOs are safe.
So we hope we can come to a compromise on the precautionary principle and its use.
GMOs have been proven time and time again to be simply harmful to the human body.
There has been no real proof, unless anybody from the EU can show me otherwise, show me articles I'd be happy to look at, saying that GMOs are harmful.
We really are on the same side, because this deal will benefit both of our economies very greatly if it is passed.
But every single GMO manufactured food that we send to the EU has been tested countless times by US factories and sellers and even consumers.
How do we know that these GMOs in the future aren't going to give people cancer?
So we are okay with tests, we just want them promptly and with a strict deadline so that our foods can go into your market quicker and can benefit your economy and your consumers.
If we push this and we don't do adequate testing, we risk causing a public health crisis.
The product that is being imported needs to prove to the government that it is not harmful.
I sincerely hope that we can come to an agreement and help every developing country in this room.
Good morning, fellow delegates. I, the representative of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, stand here today to ask for your help. My country recently exited the Second Congo War, and my people are in a dire situation when it comes to healthcare.
The delegation of Germany believes that they have found a viable system for lowering pharmaceutical prices that, if other countries listen, will be the way of the future.
Only 64% of Ghana's total population receives public health service.
Guatemala struggles to provide medicines that are not expired or even provide medicines at all.
68% of healthcare in India is private and only little public healthcare. Rural areas suffer from physician shortages and disparities between states.
Nicaragua stresses the importance of regional harmonization.
There are so many drugs coming into our country from other countries that are illegal and are harmful to our people.
The government hospitals are often very crowded and waiting times can be long. On the other hand, treatments are free for Thai citizens who have a universal coverage health card.
One of the main issues we'll be discussing today is lowering pharmaceutical drug prices.
Vietnam believes that it would make sense for us to make some sort of law in the proposal that states a maximum price for each drug.
Motion to open a moderated caucus. Last 10 minutes with a 1 minute speaking time on drug prices.
Yes, we will entertain that motion.
Lowering prices is a major way to allow the general populace to access these life-saving drugs.
The delegate of Ghana believes that we cannot have a standard pricing of drugs because there are extreme differences between how much people can pay.
Like everybody, each country has a right to care about the healthcare of their citizens. So it's sort of an issue that I think everybody can sort of come around and collaborate.
Like all GMO-fed beef was banned in 1989. So you should be discussing the feeding practices of American beef, of American animals.
Yeah.
That should be the main
Yeah,
concern
in
right now.
2010, there was a study done in the U.S.
you can
that
send
90%
the delegate
of
down
the
there to
farms
see that the
were
cows are being
huge
grass-fed.
production,
And we already take their
massive
beef.
farms with corn-fed cows that were stuffed into small pens.
So, and we're not going to discontinue
Well,
all beef.
A
trade.
consideration that you have to make here is that if you want this organic grass-fed beef, you're going to have to pay a lot more, and the EU can't afford to pay that much for imported meat, especially since you're in a
Yeah,
recession.
well, we're gonna
right now.
have huge obesity
Right.
problems
We're-
later on. I mean,
Am I-
everyone
There's
has
absolutely
obesity
no,
problems.
there's no way to correlate the feeding practices of cattle
Exactly.
to
No,
obesity.
yes, there is, because they go into McDonald's
it's
burgers
not-
and guess
it's
eat
not
McDonald's.
We might not necessarily want to cut tariffs immediately, and I think potentially, I think a good plan for us right now would be over a time frame, and that's still to be decided, that these tariffs would be periodically reduced until they have reached a point in which we are comfortable with them.
By definition, a tariff will hurt businesses inside your own countries.
I think we should also think about reducing the differences between some tariffs.
In the short run, it may seem like it's a decrease in money for the nations because we're allowing more competitive pricing. In the long run, it'll increase both entities' economies.
Just met with my fellow chief negotiator from the EU, and we have come to a conclusion that we would like to present to you, which is for 5 years, every quarter, our committee will get together with the guideline to reduce tariffs by 5%.
Which products will the tariffs actually be reduced on? Because each product has a different tariff amount that's on them.
On all products.
All products.
And it's not reducing, it's not taking out 5%, it's reducing it by 5%.
But if there is anything that happened, like a
Yeah.
economic crisis or something, then
That
that can be
changes things,
renegotiated, yeah.
The United Kingdom would like to suggest that instead of just giving these regions help, such as personnel from the United Kingdom's countries or the United States countries, we instead give them the knowledge of how to fend for themselves, which in the long run is a lot more productive, as they would eventually gain the knowledge on how to provide more hospitals. Thank you.
It is temporary. The doctors won't be able to stay forever. The citizens will keep becoming sick, and you won't be able to send enough of these doctors to all the rural areas suffering from this problem.
People need to be educated on how to manage pharmaceutical drugs and take them responsibly.
The UK would like to recommend that we create medicine agencies in respective countries that are lesser developed. For example, the WHO has already recommended by 2018, in collaboration with the African Union countries, that we create an African medicine agency.
The first 10 or so years of the drugs on the market is so important that the prices have to be really high, because that is when we have our patent, which lasts about 10 years, and other drugs basically other companies can't make the same drugs as us.
Over your 10-year patent period, when the price of the drugs are extremely expensive, how do you justify thousands of people dying because they can't afford to buy drugs?
Though that 10 years is rough, it is necessary. And that after that, as it loses its patent, there are a bunch of companies that are going to be investing in it, and then it will be less expensive and therefore more accessible. But that 10-year period, I think, is just a necessity for the companies to remain companies and to remain making drugs that will help more people.
Does the price fall after the patent expires?
I don't have a number offhand, but I'm pretty sure it is significantly over time. It kind of just plummets.
Since it becomes so much more available to the global community, the price just naturally falls as each of these new generic companies reprices it.
The United Kingdom and Germany would like to put out the idea that from the countries that are donating to other countries, the donators be allowed to put one member from their country on each of the country's respective boards. As some of the more wealthier countries have more experience concerning drugs and are in less states of poverty, we feel that our experience will be put to good use.
Belly and Donna believes that this might actually work.
So I think the most important resource to give is right now money. We should be now negotiating how we're going to get that funding.
Significant reports of a certain drug doing serious liver damage or even causing deaths, that it should immediately be reported to the local or respective kind of equivalent of the FDA. So in Colombia, it's called INVIMA.
We could just alert the authorities so they're aware of this. It might not be possibly from the disease, but it could be something else spreading through their community.
And what we have to do is we have to go straight to the source and figure out what's going on with that company and try to shut it down before it creates any more harm.
I think it is very important that countries share data on any problems that occur with each other.
And I think it's really important for the companies that are not putting important safety data that should be given to all the people using this drug. They should receive very harsh punishments for this.
And in some extreme cases, its executives may end up facing criminal charges for not sharing data.
And there are several undeveloped countries in this committee that have not, in fact, stated what they need. We've only been hearing from a couple of countries, and the UK would really appreciate some more of these countries giving their opinions so we can have a more comprehensive solution that helps everybody.
The United States of America would lend doctors who finish their training phase, which lasts 1 year, to developing countries in need of doctors.
I was wondering why it would only be banned from the country, not like everywhere else.
So each country has a different type of people, basically, different race of people, which means they have different genes. And sometimes some drugs may have adverse reactions to the people specifically from that region.
So if a new drug is introduced, would the drugs that weren't as effective, would they be taken off of the market or not?
That is when the health board will review that and look at all the other drugs already on the market and decide whether this drug will really make a difference.
This bill is actually quite comprehensive. However, once even one person has a negative experience with a drug, they should submit their experience to the Food and Drugs Board or Association or whatever your alternative is, and then there will be a public announcement.
If every country has something that is equivalent to the FDA, or if we were able to create one, that would make the drug monitoring systems in these countries a lot better.
We've all come to the consensus that it needs to be withdrawn as fast as possible. So we just need ideas on how to do it faster and prevent any harm. Thank you.
Once hospitals have seen a patient that seems to have symptoms that may have been reported or connected with a certain drug, then they should immediately report it.
Alert the pharmacies that are just all the pharmacies in case they're selling that drug to immediately suspend the selling of that drug.
So there are two different methods used when a drug is proven detrimental to health. And the first is a withdrawal, which is it's just withdrawn from the market and the manufacturer stops selling this drug in the country. But a recall is when people who have already bought them and they're already out on the market, they are also sent away.
And we can't just zone in on one different topic and just focus on that, and we have to look at the whole bigger picture.
I'd like you to add more specific requirements to this resolution. So we've called this moderated caucus to discuss how you can actually strengthen drug monitoring systems besides creating this committee that's already going to be established.
First, we have a licensing process for importing drugs. And so if there are any other countries who don't have a licensing process, Donna would like to request that they identify themselves, and so then we can discuss how to get you a process.
Could the sponsors please come to either the right side or the left side?
Calls for the creation of the JSCP, Joint Scientific Committee for Products. This committee will consist of 2 U.S. trade representatives, 3 U.S. agricultural scientists, and 1 U.S. export-import specialist. As well, 2 EU trade representatives, 3 EU agricultural scientists, and 1 EU export-import specialist will be included. 3 UN-appointed scientists will present and decide cases that result in a tie. The purpose of this committee is to have a conjoined group of specialists make trade more free and safe and speed up the testing process.
We're putting so much trust in them. Does any group of people deserve that much trust? They're affecting both economies of both of these entities so greatly. Don't they deserve? Shouldn't there be a backup plan? Basically, is what I'm saying.
It's not practical for anyone involved to purposely devalue the currency, purposely destroy the economy.
All those in favor of closing debate and moving into voting procedure, please. All those opposed? This passes. We are now in voting procedure. All those in favor of joint resolution 1.0? That's unanimous on the European Union side and unanimous on the American side. Congratulations.
Welcome to the future of the European Union and the
United States, the economies will grow and will prosper together! Yay!
Fall apart in 5 years.
I think that having the agenda was good.
Yeah.
I felt like it, had a lot more of a structured conversation, negotiation.
I think by unanimously passing the resolution, that kind of says something.
Do you think that you guys worked pretty cohesively as a group?
Yeah.
And European Union, would you say the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mostly.
Everyone wanted to, at least in our group, wanted to get towards the same goal.
I think we all had the same idea, at least on the US side, of what we wanted our endpoint to be.
Model UN is about teamwork. It's about working together. It's about making sure that I have a different interest than you. That doesn't mean we can't work together. Being able to include people, being able to say, okay, you haven't talked so much. Why don't you give a speech on this topic, or why don't you propose this amendment?
The EU is doing tests to, like, what kind of tests, and is 2 years and a good amount of time. And so I feel like we could have just been more specific on the GMO foods, but I feel like if we were trying to be any more specific, nothing would have been passed.
The fact that this passed unanimously, I think.
So too much agreement almost.
Yeah, I
Everyone's
think
tired,
there's
I think.
there's a bit of policy issues on both sides, and people just wanted to get stuff passed, and
Sure.
so I think that was something we could work on. It's not the whole thing doesn't revolve around just getting things passed. It's about actually
Right.
arguing your position really well.
I actually really enjoyed this form of debate because it was less kind of preparation, more thinking on your feet and negotiation. And I also enjoyed that it was kind of smaller, so it was easier to speak more and to hear other people's ideas.
It was actually pretty interesting in how people had a lot of different opinions and how we had to all compromise between that.
I didn't really prepare a ton of speeches, and I just really depended on a lot of what the other countries were saying, which is why it was really fun to do this.
The chairs really did their job this debate. If the chairs hadn't done things at key points in the debate, we would have turned out with a very different solution.
I felt like my country didn't have a bigger say in this, but I felt like I was able to come up with things off the top of my head to speak more.
I think all in all, it went really well today.
Yeah, I think the debate went really well today. I think you did a really good job collaborating with, I think, in a typical MUN committee. It's a lot more argumentative, but I think here everybody saw a lot more discussion and a lot more working together, and I think that was what really produced a comprehensive resolution.
The highlight for me was that everyone spoke at least once, and it was nice negotiating and including all the other people in the delegation. Try in the beginning of the conference or the day to speak a lot, and that will give you momentum towards the end of the day to keep speaking.
As you get more comfortable with LCM and debates and stuff, that's something you'll be able to do more and more, is that you'll be able to say, okay, there's this point that I have that, and I really think that people should hear it. It's something important. It's worthy of being heard. I want to talk. I want to be able to seize this opportunity. I'm going to make myself look good. And when you can do that, that's when you know that you've kind of reached a new level of debating ability. That's when you know, okay, I am now maybe not experienced, but I have a new skill, and that's something important.